Okay, we should be good to go now. I had to fix some issues on the back end. Hopefully, all is well now. So let's keep marching along. All right. So let me just start over from the top here. So far, we've gone over the destination. All right. We've also gone over the subfolder that we're going to put information into inside of that internal destination. And then we skipped over generate folder for just a brief second. And then we're here at add meta, or I'm sorry, at rename, not metadata. We are at the renaming feature. And as you can see here, I went ahead and I typed in whatever I want the name of these images to be. And then the camera model, because I do use multiple camera models, and the sequence here. All right. So these are called tokens. You can add a token for almost anything that the image has built into it. All right. Most of this is going to be the metadata from the camera. So when you click on it, you can click on metadata and then camera, or hover over, and then you can choose dimensions. You can put exposure, focal length, all these things that come straight out of the camera. And if your camera is giving you GPS data, then you have that information in there. All right. All of these items can be imported into the file name. Now, I don't know if, when you look at this and you're looking at information that's coming from the camera, I don't know how much of that is going to be in the file name. All right. All these other tokens, these are things that you do here in the add metadata tab. So if you want to add those, you can, but date and time, I don't necessarily date and time my photos. That's a personal preference. I don't really care to do that. But let me know in the comment section below if that's what you prefer to do. All right. So that's the renaming piece. Now we have the add metadata. All right. Now, and I guess I should go over the fact that you can choose a custom name for your images. And a lot of these are presets in there, right? I have the Chris basic naming. That's my personal one that I use. And then there are custom name where you just type in a name, do all of that. But you can save a new preset once you've put all the tokens that you want in there. All right. And even if you want it to be lowercase, or if you want it to be capitalized, whatever you want it to be. All right. It's your importing workflow. But for me personally, I just go with lowercase. And these are the only items that I really need to name my photos, because I don't need long names for my photos when I'm importing. And for that matter, when I'm exporting. All right. So now we come to the metadata. If there is anything that you should spend time putting into your photos before you hit the import button, I have to say that the metadata is important. All right. One, putting you as the author and the copyright, which all rights reserved. This lets everyone know that you did the work on this image and you own the rights to this image. All right. There are a lot of people who steal images out there on the internet, especially if you're sharing your work on the internet. And at some point, maybe there's going to be some monetary gain that a person uses an image of yours for. And if you have no way of proving that you own that image, then you're going to run into some issues. All right. So my recommendation, and I'm not a lawyer, so seek legal advice if that's something that you're really like, oh yeah, I need to figure that out. But seek legal advice. Go do that. However, take heed to the advice that I'm giving, that it doesn't hurt to add your name and your copyright standard at a minimum. Now we get into the actual keywords, and These keywords are super helpful, especially if you're into stock photography. If you are into stock photography, I highly recommend that you get into the habit of putting keywords into your photos, regardless of if you're going to edit them or not for upload to the stock site. Mostly because this will save you some work when you upload your images, as long as you export the keywords into your final image. When you upload them to your stock website, they can read this metadata. All right. So spend the time now to categorize all your images with the exact same keywords, and you're going to save yourself some time. All right. So as you can see, I have a preset in here, and this is my products or still life preset. So items, products, still life, and then I'll probably just put Legos because that's what they are. No big deal. Now, I'm not going to go into all of the metadata fields that are available, but if you wanted to, you can put a description. These are Legos that I shot on my desk. Now, this is also very crucial for anyone who is shooting stock photography. You can use this particular section to put your description in and make all of your edits. So when you make your upload, the description will follow into your files. Save you some time on the back end. That's all I'm trying to help you do. All right. Then, as you can see here, you can put your contact information. I put my my PO box. I guess I should probably put the box number in there at some point. That's important, but whatever. They know what to do when it gets to the post office, how to get it to the correct PO box. And then email address, website. I recommend that you use an email address that you don't pay for. All right. Now you can use your own website, all that good stuff, but what I believe, for a vast majority of the followers of this channel and inside of this community, is we are hobbyists and part-time professionals, and maybe you won't have the revenue to continue paying for a URL or anything like that. So my recommendation is that you find a free email server, so that way you can at least get contact information, or if someone infringes on it or needs to reach out to ask for rights to your photos so they can use it, there's an opportunity down the line, because photos last for a very long time, right? 10 years down the line, someone may like your photo and want to use it, and then they're going to need to email you, and you may not have your website or your URL or anything like that anymore. So I know that there's some mixed information out there, or mixed opinions, I should say, not information, on if you should use a website or if you should use your own, like a Gmail or anything like that. I personally think you should use a Gmail, just because highly unlikely that Google goes out of business, but not to say that you would. I think you guys get what I'm saying. All right. Then you can come down and add in more information. I think there's way more information fields than you may even ever want to add. But just know that it is available for you should you want to add that information. I personally leave this part minimized, and I usually just work in this section here. But this is important because it's going to let you do an advanced search of your images later on down the line. So if you put good descriptions, right? So this is not just Legos, but it's also Captain America. He is wearing, and you can put all kinds of stuff, but I'm not going to get like crazy, right? You can describe the image by putting keywords. So when you go search, you can say, okay, I think it was a Lego. I think it was Captain America. It's going to really pinpoint just that one. All right. And then you have photo settings. Now, the photo settings is really, really helpful if you know, like if you're doing if you're shooting an event, uh, you may want to add a preset to all of the photos just to give you a good base, right? You may even have a final preset so you don't have to go through and edit all of these photos, right? Maybe all you have to do is apply the preset and send it. This works great if you're editing mini sessions and you have all the lighting set the way that you need it to go. And all you have to do to make that, feel for whatever the mini session is. Maybe you're giving out like a photo with a border that has like some little burned edges or something like that. You create a preset. You know where everyone is because you're on a tripod. The lights are all going to be the same. So when you take the photo, all you have to do is drop a preset and it's done. And you can really pump through that. Or maybe it's just you like a basic preset for your landscape. Nonetheless, this just helps you do all of that on import. So when you go to your photos, you can stay focused on the final product. All right. Final product, staying focused, very important. I don't use this as often, and I'll show you why in a little bit. All right. And then you can edit the capture date. Now, I don't mess with this too often, mostly because I don't need to edit the capture date. Usually the date that is saved in the photo is correct because I make sure that my camera dates are correct and I update my firmware and make sure that all that's good to go. So I don't think you will need to do this as often, but let me know in the comment section below if you've ever had to edit the capture date. Now, the last thing that I want to show you before I hit import is you have the option to make some presets. All right. Now, the presets that you make down here encompass every single change that you've made up here. All right. So if you know that you want to save, like I have one for landscape, I have one for products, and then I have a basic upload. All right. Basically, and I have one for a client. I was going to say, I know I have one for clients as well. For me, I find that I have a lot of landscapes, even though I'm not a landscape photographer. It's weird. And then I have a lot of products, so food, still life, stuff like that. And then I have just my basic upload of stuff that is like my family or a vacation or something like that. I can just use the basic upload, point that to the right folder. But those other two, or really the other three, because the last one is the client import. And that's when I'm doing headshots or portraits or whatever I'm doing for a client. I keep all that stuff separate from my personal work folder. And that's just so I can stay organized. But the point that I wanted to make here is you can have presets in your naming. You can have presets in your metadata. You can even have there's a way that you can put presets in the generate subfolders, which we skipped over because I'm going to explain those. Those are unique. I think they're more beneficial for exporting because here, I'll just give you the brief overview of this. You can use generate a subfolder based off of a token on the images that you're importing. So you can go to metadata, and if you have a series of images that are coming from a hard drive, like maybe you are importing images from your old hard drive and you want to bring them to your new hard drive. All right. Sorry, you can't see my hands kind of cut off in the circle. But what you can do is you can say, all right, I want you to make generated folders inside of this subfolder, right? I want you to generate a series of folders that are based off of the camera, and maybe you'll go with model. All right. So maybe you have iPhone, Samsung, Canon EOS R, Canon 5D, whatever, right? You'll have a series of folders. You can get like super granular and crazy because you can say, I want it by model. And then you can come over and say, I want it by date. And it's going to start filtering. So you'll have a folder of Canon 5D Mark VI shot May 1st, 2015. Canon EOS R Rebel, whatever, shot February 15th, 2021, right? Doesn't matter. None of those dates have significant meaning. I'm just throwing out stuff. You can get super granular. I think that you can get lost in this. So I would be very cautious of using this on import. Mostly because you don't even know like what you want to do with some of these photos, or you may not know. Now, if I am just completely misquoting this and you're like, no, I find extreme value in doing the generate folders, please let me know in the comment section below. But I'm just not seeing it. All right. I don't think I would use the generate subfolders all that much unless I was just separating it by multiple cameras. And I guess if you are on a large shoot where you have that going on, but in order for this to be, I guess, useful, they would have to be coming from the same source. Since I am using an SD card for all of my photo imports, that would mean I would have to take the SD card out of my Canon EOS R6 and then put it into my R, take photos with that. So now I have two different camera models on the same SD card, but that's not how I photograph. I have one SD card for each of those cameras, and I just take turns importing from those cameras. Oh, hey, buddy. I'm streaming here. Thank you. My dog was having a dream of some sort. All right. So we'll just go ahead and close that down. I think you guys get the point. If you don't, just drop it in the comment section. Let me know what you think about that. But nonetheless, you can make presets of everything that you have here. So when you get ready to import, if I'm like, hey, I'm about to import a bunch of landscapes, I can just come down here, click on landscape, choose my photos, retitle the name, throw in a few metadata like tags or whatnot, and then hit import. All right. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and click on import. Now that, we've talked about that for quite some time. And we're going to see all these photos show up in the ON1 Photo Raw. And it shouldn't take too long because there's only a handful of these photos. Now, what ON1 is doing, and I wonder if I can show you that while it runs in the background. You're probably going to be like, man, these photos look weird. And you're right. They do look a little weird. And that's because these photos were not, they were captured right. But what I did was, and I'm sorry, I didn't explain where I went. So on a Mac, you click on ON1 Photo Raw for the application, and then you click on Preferences, and you click on Files. This brings you to what do you want ON1 to do when you have photos coming in from a particular camera. Well, I chose with the EOS R6 that I wanted to use my basic adjustment. All right. So what it's going to do is whenever I import photos from this serial numbered camera or a camera that has this type of model number, because maybe you get another R6, right? Or you get photos from someone else's R6. This type of camera or this model serial numbered camera, it is going to apply a preset that I have saved in my presets. All right. Now, I'm still experimenting with this option, if it's value added or if I should just not do it and only use the internal, when you import into ON1 Photo Raw, use the preset there. If you got experience with this, let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what you have encountered with that. Let me get a sip of coffee and we'll continue. Okay. So, uh, all of our photos are here. And as you can see, when I click on a photo, nothing is changing, but you can see I have my keywords there. And if I go to the EXIF data, this is coming straight out of the camera. The EXIF data comes straight out of the camera. And if you, let me see, where is it? Guess it's not on this one. Okay. I was going to see if the individual name that I was talking about earlier, the file name that ON1 can read, if it shows it, but I don't see it here because this is now the file name, obviously, because we renamed it. But in here, there's more information that tells ON1 like, hey, the file name used to be this, so now you know not to import duplicates. But I'll find that some other time. All right. So what do you do from here, right? And we're not going to get into exporting, but all of these are inside of the personal work, self or still life photos, and then the Lego Friends one that I told you that I labeled a folder. I can make all of my edits to these photos, do whatever I want to, and then I can come down here and use the export to export all these photos and go on. So I just wanted to share how to use the import module, especially with those tokens renaming mostly. But as you can see, where is my... Oh, the description is up there. So it says these are Legos that I shot on my desk. So when I go to export this, that description is going to be baked into the file. I already did that during the import. And if you have way more photos than 10, you're going to obviously take a little bit longer to import your images. But the goal here was really just to show you that you can use the import module to categorize your photos and really put them into the place that they need to go to. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and jump back over to the slides. And we'll go into Q&A. So I'm going to answer some questions that I already have received, and I think that they just deserve a little bit of a answer here on the live stream before we part ways. So a question that I got earlier this morning is, when it comes to plugins, why did ON1, or why are they referred to as Photoshop plugins? Now, my response to this question is really based off of familiarity, right? I think if you are a photographer, and even if you're not a photographer, I think many people have heard of Photoshop. So you can use that as a point of reference, right? You can just say, hey, Photoshop. And people know that you're talking about some sort of imagery or some sort of design, image-based type deal. But then we talk about the plugins. Well, there are a lot of plugins on the market, right? Not all of them work with Photoshop, which in turn, not all of them work with ON1 Photo Raw. Well, I think, and I could be wrong, so if you know the answer to this, please drop it in the comment section. ON1 Photo Raw used Photoshop plugins just to make it simple for people to say, okay, if it worked with Photoshop, it will likely work with ON1. All right. Now, if I'll leave the link in the description box below to my video about the plugins, so you can check that out. But there's an article that I linked in that particular video that talks about in process, out of process, which plugins work, which plugins don't work. Even though they work with Photoshop, they may not necessarily work with ON1 Photo Raw. and that's all because of the API. All right. Um, Look, that is just the way it is. All right, that is just the way it is. I'm excited that On1 is innovating their software and trying to incorporate these plugins. So we'll see where it goes. Again, I am an affiliate, so I do have a little bit of what's the word I want to use? I don't work for On1, but I do appreciate the software. I love using it, and I want to see it succeed. But at the same time, I'm not like overzealous to tell you that it comes without flaws, right? That is a feature that I was super excited about, and I'm a little underwhelmed with the way that it is working currently. But hopefully, they're continuing to build it and work on it, and it'll be nice to see that work in the future, especially with some of these that you still have to run it under Rosetta. Being able to run it native to Apple Silicon will be exciting as well. So hopefully I answered that question. Why is On1 using Photoshop plugins as their terminology? Simply to make sure that everyone identifies that Photoshop plugins or plugins that would work with Photoshop most likely will work with On1. But there's a lot of testing that still needs to be done. And, check out my video about the plugins not working if you just want to get a more detailed or in-depth description. The second question that I got was in reference to the plugins. If you don't have Photoshop, what folder is On1 looking for to get your plugins? Well, or to find your plugins so you can see if it's working with ON1 Photo Raw. Well, if you don't have Photoshop, it's not going to be able to find that default path. And it is really, really hard for On1 to guess where your plugins are stored if you don't have a known place for On1 to write into the script of their installer. All right. So if you have plugins stored on your hard drive, but you didn't put the path, but your path could be different than my path, and it can be different than someone else's path, right? So mine could be library and then plugins, but yours could be library, photo stuff, plugins. And then another person's, it could be completely not in the library. It could be on a hard drive. So it could be on my photography drive and then plugins. I think you guys are starting to see the point. Moral of the story, I believe that On1, when they built their installer, they built it to look for the generic Adobe plugins path, because Adobe, when Photoshop is installed, it installs a plugin path. So then, if you have ever noticed, when you install another program onto your computer, it looks for that path. This is a generic path that Adobe uses, and all of these companies know what that path is when they get their production kits to start developing their software to make sure that it interfaces well with Adobe or with Photoshop. So since Adobe is already saying, hey, if a user has Photoshop on a computer, this is the generic path where plugins should be stored. Doesn't mean they're always there, but they should be there. Well, if you don't have Photoshop, you're not going to have that generic path. On1's not going to be able to predict that. However, you can point On1 to the folder where your plugins are stored, as I showed in that video. Now, pointing to that folder is going to be your best bet. Pointing to that folder is going to be your best bet, because you may have to reinstall the application just so you can force the application to also install the plugin version that points to that application. All right. Think of a plugin, and this is probably the worst way of explaining it, but I'm going to explain it this way anyway. Think of a plugin as an arrow that points ON1 to the actual application. All right. So it allows ON1 to use all of the features that are inside of this application, be it Luminar or Nick Collection or Topaz or any of these plugins, right? It says to ON1, here are all of the features that are available, and it even gives you the same or a very similar layout of the application, because again, these application plugin designers, they're developing these to work inside of in the API, application programming interface, right? This is the place where ON1 hosts that particular application. If the API is outdated or incompatible, the plugin simply won't work. Well, you have to tell ON1 where to go find this plugin so it can build this API or this interface, and then that plugin will open up an instance of the application so it can be used by the host application, which would be ON1. And I feel like that got super technical, so if you're confused, just type confused in the comment section. That's cool. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to confuse you. But if you're following along, then smash the like button. All right. If you think that, I explained that pretty decently well, smash the like button. Let me know that I explained some super crazy technical stuff quite well. All right. Last but absolutely not least of the questions, in reference to the Sky Swap AI. Now, I am not a landscape photographer, but the question was asked, what value will you get out of using Sky Swap AI? That is a very individualized question, because if, like for me, I don't use I don't use ON1 to edit landscapes. Granted, I did edit some landscapes in some of my previous videos, but the best way, or the best thing that I can provide to you as an option for Sky Swap is maybe trying to create a mask and then using the skies to actually put those in. Now, is this any different than using a texture layer? Maybe. I don't know. I haven't fully experimented with this, but my theory, all right, because I want to share the theory with you, and hopefully you guys will go out and experiment with it. My theory is to put up a background, and on this background, it'll just be a neutral color, black, white, gray, doesn't matter. And then generate a still life in front of it, photograph it, and then take that background out and replace it with some sort of, not necessarily a sky, all right? Maybe this will be another, like a interior of a home. I don't know. I'm just, go with me on this, right? I'm just trying to explore how else we can use this. Now, the downside to the Sky Swap AI is it's looking for a sky. So I may have to use an artificial sky background, and this just helps me with the AI piece of, kind of making that work. This could be beneficial. This could just be me completely making some stuff up. I don't know. I mean, that's just what I do with software, right? I test it to try and see if I can do some crazy nonsense with it. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, whatever. At least now I know it doesn't work. Or it'll be something that is like, hey, you know what? This could work if only I do this first, and we'll see. Moral of the story: experiment with the software. don't always get caught up with the name of a particular feature, because you might be able to do something even more amazing with it if you think a little bit outside the box. And that's what I want to challenge you with. And that's the crux of, staying inspired and continuing to create, which is what we do here at Free Will Photos. That's my goal. And hopefully it is received well and you guys are enjoying that concept. So I think we're going to go ahead and cut it there. We've been going for just about an hour, 2 separate streams here, and I got to figure out how to stitch those together. Had to stop the stream to start it back, so we'll see how that all works out. Again, if you guys got questions, drop it in the comment section below. Let me know what you're thinking, what issues you're running into with ON1 Photo Raw. I'm not tech support for ON1, but I would be curious, or not would be, I am curious to know what issues you're running into, because maybe these are things where there's already a fix and I can help out, or maybe it's just not a thing where there's a fix and, we can come together to kind of present these to ON1 so they can get them fixed for us. All kinds of stuff, right? So hopefully today was informative. If it was, smash the like button. Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I truly appreciate the support. Like the channel, I'm not looking to make this like some mega sized channel, right? The goal here is really just to build a community of hobbyist photographers that use ON1, and really any other photo editing application, right? It's not just about ON1, but primarily ON1, and we're just having a good time learning photography, using things in a unique way. But I have some phenomenal supporters, and I'm just truly grateful for the people who come day in and day out and leave comments and support the channel. So I really want to say thank you to all of you guys. I truly do appreciate you. And I am looking for a way to do something special for, the subscribers so far. So if you have any ideas of what you think would be a good idea to do, please let me know. Help me out. I'm a one-man show, right? I can only come up with so much on my own. So I'm reaching out to the community. If you guys got some ideas, let me know. And I want to test that out. All right. I want to support the community and give back, because you guys have just been amazing. You guys have been helpful with your questions, and then also just the comments and correcting me on certain things. I never want to sit here and portray myself as being bigger and better than you, because I'm not. I'm just a person who's trying to facilitate discussion and share what he knows. All right. That's it. That's all I want to do. So if that's something you're interested in, you're watching this for the first time, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the bell icon, because you won't be notified. And that's just the way YouTube works, right? But if you hit the bell icon, it'll probably show up in your feed, or you'll get a notification that a new video was launched. I am trying to stay very consistent with uploading and doing live streams on Saturdays. With that being said, next Saturday, I am likely not going to be live streaming. I have surgery on Friday, nothing crazy. It's an outpatient surgery, but I'm probably going to be recovering from that. So highly unlikely that I'll do a live stream, but I am going to have a video posted, and that video is going to be the 1 week plus review of ON1 Photo Raw, now that I've been using it for a little while. And some of those things that I was not aware of, that in my preview video or review video earlier, I just want to kind of bring those back to light and say, okay, hey, here's what I learned about ON1 Photo Raw 2022, testing it in the Rosetta version for all of us that are using the M1 Max. So you can see the compatibility differences with the M1 in a real case scenario, right? I don't want to show you a bunch of benchmarks. I want to show you, like, if you are doing this, this is what you're going to get. That's what I want to show you, because stats and stuff, those are cute, but I don't think that they're really helpful. Because you're gonna think like, oh well, if the stats say that it's good, then it must be good, and that's not always the case. So that's the whole purpose of that particular video. And then I am planning on starting a video podcast. I've had a podcast for On1 Photo, not for On1 Photo. I've had a podcast for the Free Will Photos channel, and this is going to be centered more around photography in general, maybe some photography news. I'm working out the segments. If you got some ideas of what you think should be in a podcast or things that you're interested in, if you're even into podcasts, it will be a video podcast. So it'll be here on YouTube as well as on Spotify, probably iTunes, all these other podcasting places. But the goal with that is really just to broaden the audience and just talk about photography in general. There's a lot of great podcasts out there, so I'm not looking to steal the thunder of any of them. I'm just looking to add my own spin to conversations and, kind of take them in the direction that I would like to, but also the direction that my viewers here and the subscribers here at the Free Will Photos channel, things that you guys are interested in. So 2 ways that you can shoot that to me. You can drop it in the comment section below and say, hey, I'd really love to hear a podcast on this. Or you can just hit me an email at freewillphotos@gmail.com. And that's also in the description box below. So you can just send me an email, let me know, hey, Chris, I would like to hear this on a podcast. And if you want to be a guest on the podcast and, or even a co-host, I'm willing to go for a co-host. I need, more and more people. So I would love to be able to help out with that. Alan, is this going to be a series on 2022? Are you talking about for the podcast, or are you talking about here on the live stream? And I guess I'll kind of preface that with, I am not necessarily going to do a series on ON1 2022, unless of course that's something that the community here really wants to see. What I will do is updates and how to use the new features in ON1 2022 in a real life scenario, and kind of give some ideas of how I am using them, how I plan to use them, and what happened when I used them. But for the most part, it's not going to be a full series. Now, I don't plan to make the podcast itself all about ON1. The podcast is going to be more along the lines of general photography conversation, and basic understanding of where photography came from, what's going on in photography today. If you're a part-time business, you want to get paid, on the side, make a little bit of money with your photography, some tips and tricks on how to do that, interacting with people. This is definitely not going to be for the professional photographer who already has a studio, at least on the tips and tricks, money side, business side. There's very little advice that I can give in that, just because I am a super part-time photographer, when it comes to getting paid. But the goal with the podcast is really just to share general information, and we can get specific on certain things. I don't really care to talk about photo gear, and let me backtrack on that a little bit. I will talk about the gear that I think would be beneficial, and I would love to hear the gear that others believe would be beneficial. But hopefully that answered the question about the series. I am more than open to making any sort of content that, if you have a question about with ON1 Photo Raw 2022 and you're like, hey, you know what? I would really like to know how to do, and then fill in the blank. Um, I would be more than happy to make those types of videos for you, and you can put those in the comment section, or you can send me an email. And if it's something that I can make a video on, I absolutely will. If it's something that I can turn into the class for the live stream here on Saturday mornings, I absolutely will. Because my goal is just to give back to you guys. So if you tell me what you would like to see, you know, or, you know, if you're like, hey, I just want to hear your thoughts on something, I have opinions and I have no problem with sharing them. And if you want to come on the live stream and just kind of share your work and your opinions, I'm open to that. Like, this is a community for the photographer, the hobbyist, the enthusiast, the beginner, the intermediate, even a professional if you want to just hang out. That's what this is all about, right? So we can go in almost any direction. I just want to help facilitate as much learning as possible for anyone who's looking to learn. So thank you for that question, though, Alan, to help me clarify to the audience that at large. So yeah, I think we'll cut it there, and I really do appreciate everyone who came and hung out on the live stream and everyone who's watching this in the replay. So until next time, I want you guys to stay inspired and keep creating. Peace.